There are places on Earth where time seems to stop. There the wind carries the smell of sea salt mixed with the smell of dry soil and volcanic rock dust, where ancient creatures still live and breathe as if they had never been swept away by the tide of evolution. Hidden deep among the barren limestone islands of Indonesia's lesser Sunda archipelago, where the ocean roars against the shore and the sun bakes the rocky hillsides, there exists a creature that amazes even those experienced with nature. This is not a legend nor a relic of the past, but a living embodiment of a surviving ancient era. It is the home of the Komodo dragon, the largest lizard alive on Earth. With a length exceeding 10 feet and an average weight of about 150 pounds, this creature has both a strange appearance and a terrifyingly sharp survival instinct. From its cold yellow eyes to its thick armor-like skin covered with horny scales, every detail of its body is designed by nature to serve a single goal: survival and hunting. Komodo is unlike any other predator. It does not need speed like a leopard, nor does it have a fatal bite like a crocodile. Its most powerful weapon lies in its patience and ability to inflict death, most maliciously, a poisonous bite. Its saliva contains a mixture of infection-causing bacteria and a toxin that can cause low blood pressure, causing the victim to gradually become exhausted, disoriented, and eventually collapse in hopelessness. No need to chase, no need to kill immediately. Komodo only needs a single blow, then stalks its prey for hours, even days, until it collapses. It is a game of time and blood. On this arid island, where heat can exceed 100 degrees Fahrenheit, where streams dry up in summer and thin forests no longer provide enough shade, the Komodo dragon is the ultimate ruler. Deer, wild boar, and long-tailed macaques are all on the menu. But today, our cameras captured a rare sight: an adult Komodo tracking a wild buffalo weighing more than half a ton. A dramatic confrontation where the cold giant will face fierce resistance from the largest prey it has ever chosen. This is not just a hunt. This is a war between two worlds. One side is muscle power, the other side is the deadly patience of the cold-blooded hunter. As the sun gradually set, and the Komodo dragon's shadow stretched across the cracked ground, the air seemed to freeze. Silence reigned. Only the sounds of insects and the buffalo's heavy breathing remained. On this wild, natural battlefield, one of them will no longer stand up. And we who are watching from afar are about to witness the most ancient instinct of life: to hunt, or to be hunted. Be prepared, because what you're about to see will change the way you look at nature forever. Komodo is not only powerful, but also the perfect example of how nature nurtures life through the seemingly absurd. On harsh islands where temperatures can hit 104 degrees Fahrenheit at noon, vegetation is sparse, fresh water is scarce, and prey is hard to find. These reptiles have persisted not just over a few years, but over thousands of generations. They can live up to 30 years in the wild, a respectable number for a reptile of such giant size. Most of the time, Komodo lives slowly. It lounges under the shade of trees or among hot rocks, saving every bit of energy. However, that slowness does not mean laziness. On the contrary, it is the survival strategy of someone who has learned to observe instead of wasting energy. Komodo only acts when it is certain that victory is in its favor. The Komodo lifestyle embodies the philosophy of unhurried hunting. When a deer or wild boar carelessly approaches it, remains silent, burying itself in dry grass or rocks along the road. Its charge is short but powerful, with jaws strong enough to tear through thick skin. Just one bite and the countdown begins. The prey ran away, panicked, but the bleeding did not stop. Within minutes to hours, the toxin takes effect. Meanwhile, Komodo slowly followed, no need to chase, no need to fight anymore. As its prey falls, it approaches gently, almost leisurely, and begins its meal like a victorious king. Komodo's food is not limited to small creatures. On the islands of Komodo and Rinca, where there are still herds of wild buffalo Komodo dragons, can risk targeting prey 5 to 10 times their weight. An adult buffalo can weigh up to 500 pounds, with sharp horns, strength, and resistance that cannot be underestimated. But with Komodo, with just one bite to the hind leg or abdomen, a location with many blood vessels, the fight is considered arranged. Komodo doesn't need to win immediately. It just needs to wait. Its biological weapon. What makes the difference is not just teeth or muscles, but poison glands. In a study by the University of Melbourne, it was discovered that Komodo has 2 large toxic glands in the lower jaw, secreting a protein that dilates blood vessels, lowers blood pressure, and causes shock. When combined with the extensive wound caused by the serrations, this effect causes the prey to bleed to death with almost no immediate pain. Added to this is the presence of dozens of types of anaerobic bacteria in the oral cavity, creating a dual effect of infection and toxic shock. Despite being a solitary predator, the Komodo does not mind sharing its spoils if it is beneficial. When the carcass of a large buffalo or cow is left behind, the smell of blood will spread in the wind. From several miles away, other Komodos will follow with their characteristic forked tongues, constantly sticking out, tasting the air, and determining direction. One large carcass can attract 20 to 30 Komodo dragons from adults to juveniles. Even though there is no herd structure, they still have an implicit order. The largest eat first, the younger ones stand far away and wait, sometimes venturing into the middle of the aggressive crowd to get a few pieces of meat. When food becomes scarce, the lines between species and enemies also become blurred. Komodo can attack its species, especially its young. Not out of malice, but because survival instincts tell us that any source of protein is precious. That's why young Komodos are forced to live in trees for the first few years of their lives, away from the claws and teeth of their parents or brothers. In Komodo's world, compassion does not exist. Here there are only 2 types of creatures, those who survive and those who are eaten. And Komodo, quiet, solitary, but calculating, has existed like that for millions of years. It is proof that sometimes life doesn't have to be bustling or crowded. It just requires efficiency, silence, and a set of jaws ready to finish off any creature that takes one wrong step on this deadly land. On rocky and windy islands, every creature must pay the price to survive. For Komodo dragons, even maintaining the breed is an uncompromising battle for survival. There is no concept of tender motherly love, no mutual care in the flock, and even less a peaceful home. Reproduction for Komodo is a fierce battle even before the eggs are born. Around May to August every year, the mating season of Komodo dragons begins. The sultry atmosphere of Komodo Island became tense. Males who live scattered and solitary lives begin to move, according to the body odor of the female in estrus. They follow scent trails on the ground, sometimes traveling for miles in the scorching sun to find potential mates. When 2 males meet in front of a female, fighting is inevitable. No screaming, no blood and fire like the battles of lions or baboons. Battles between Komodo dragons take place like silent, powerful struggles. The 2 males stand upright on their hind legs, lock each other with their front legs, and curl themselves into giant wrestling pairs. They push, squeeze, and throw each other with all their body weight, using muscle strength and flexibility to force the opponent to fall. The loser often leaves in silence, sometimes with deep lacerations in the neck or legs. The winner has no glorious reward, only the right to mate, a fragile privilege, in a world where survival always comes before instinct. When mating is over, the female begins to look for a place to lay her eggs. It does not give birth arbitrarily. Clever females will find old nest mounds left by malleefowl or other birds, large holes in the ground covered with rotting leaves, both insulating and avoiding the attention of predators. If there is no nest available, it will dig a deep hole for itself with strong slaps of its legs and claws. A female can lay from 15 to 30 eggs. Each egg is as big as a small ball, with a soft and fragile shell. Then it covered it with dirt and left. No incubation, no turning back, no protection. And so the life of the next Komodo generation begins with absolute loneliness. Egg incubation lasts from 7 to 9 months. When the rainy season comes, the soil softens and the eggs hatch. The tiny creatures, only about 16 inches long and weighing less than 3.5 ounces, will have to emerge from the cold, wet soil alone. There was no mother to wait, no one to show the way. And the cruelest thing is they are in the most dangerous place, the ground where larger dragons are still hunting. In an ecosystem where even their species can become a meal, young Komodos must learn to climb trees as soon as possible. On the high branches where the adults could not reach with their heavy bodies, the small ones found survival. They live on insects, small lizards, baby birds, and bird eggs. There, among the sparse foliage, their life hangs like that small body, fragile, alert, and alone. The young must live like this for the first 3 to 4 years of their lives, until they are old enough to leave the tree and enter the terrestrial world, where they turn from the hunted to the hunter. As an adult, Komodo still maintains a solitary lifestyle. Each lives in its territory, only intersecting when there are large carcasses or the breeding season arrives. They do not live in packs and do not have a fixed social hierarchy like wolves or lions. But if one individual encroaches on another's territory, fighting is possible. These collisions do not last long, but always leave consequences: bites, torn scales, and even death. Komodo's daily life is a series of quiet times. Its day may consist of finding shade, following the scent of blood, and moving no more than a few hundred feet. But that quietness hides a cruel instinct. When the opportunity arises, be it a weak deer, a lost piglet, or even an injured fellow, it acts without hesitation. For Komodo dragons, every moment can be the line between hunger and survival. And so the cycle closes from birth, having to hide from others, grow up in isolation, and reproduce in silence, then continue to create a new generation of Komodo survivors by instinct, by blood, and by an evolutionary heritage that has overcome millions of years of challenges. They don't need pity, nor do they need help. They just need soil, wind, the smell of blood, and time. In a place where life is as harsh and depleted as the Komodo Islands, every decision must be precisely calculated. For this giant dragon, survival depends on the ability to take advantage of every smallest opportunity, not because they are weak, but because every time they hunt is a gamble of life and death. With the small amount of energy in their body, Komodo has no right to make mistakes. And because of that, its hunting instincts are unlike any other carnivore on the planet. Komodo's most powerful sense is not his eyes, but his characteristic forked tongue, which constantly stretches out to taste the air. On the roof of its mouth is a Jacobson's organ, a sophisticated chemical system that allows it to analyze odor molecules in the air, determine the direction of the wind, the direction of prey, and even predict the bleeding animal more than 2 miles away. That's why Komodo rarely hunts randomly. It chooses the right time, right place, and right target. When the moment came, Komodo's charge was a brief burst. Even though it weighs up to 150 pounds, it can still accelerate up to 12 miles per hour over short distances. But more important than speed is the first bite. Komodo's teeth consist of dozens of saw-shaped teeth, curved and sharp as a scalpel. A bite to the abdomen or hind leg will create a deep and wide wound, breaking through the muscle layer and tearing the artery. But the truth is, that bite wasn't meant to kill. It is the beginning of a slow death. In Komodo's saliva, scientists have discovered large toxic glands that secrete proteins that cause a drop in blood pressure, make blood flow faster, and reduce the ability to clot. Not only that, its oral cavity contains hundreds of types of anaerobic bacteria, microscopic organisms that cause acute infections. The prey, after being bitten, will run away in panic, blood spurting out with each heartbeat. Komodo did not chase. It lets time do the rest. The strangest scene was the moment Komodo slowly followed his dying prey. Even though the bitten animal may run hundreds of yards away, crawl through bushes, huddle in open woods, or even enter a lake, Komodo will still find it. With its constantly extended forked tongue, it traced the trail of blood like a sorcerer reading a curse. A deer can take 2 hours to fall. A wild boar can survive until the next morning. And for a buffalo, the waiting sometimes lasts all day. When the prey collapses, gasps for breath, or only has the strength to move its eyes, Komodo will slowly approach with no need to rush. It knows the end has been arranged. And then with one pull, one bite to the throat, the animal's life ended. In such cases, Komodo usually eats on the spot. It starts from the soft parts, the abdomen, thighs, and intestines. Not a single piece of flesh is wasted, not even bones, if small enough. A Komodo can eat 80% of its body weight in one go, or about 120 pounds of meat in one blood feast. And then after the meal, it returned to life slowly, as if nothing had ever happened. It rested for several days to digest, almost motionless. Not hunting, not wandering, not active. Each meal is enough to feed it for a week, even a month. That's how Komodo survives, hunt little, but effectively kill slowly but surely. There is no mercy, no compassion. There is only instinct and a deep faith in time, the cold-blooded predator's most loyal ally. Hidden under tall grass, yellowed by the tropical sun, an ancient creature is waiting for the perfect moment to strike. It was no ordinary hunt. When the target is a full-grown water buffalo with razor-sharp horns and the strength of a pound of muscle, only the oldest, largest Komodo dragons dare to try. And when the opportunity comes, they don't target the neck or torso. They bite the leg gently but fatally. Just one bite. But inside the Komodo dragon's saliva is a terrifying mixture of toxins, special proteins that prevent blood from clotting, muscles gradually paralyze, and the victim's body quickly collapses. The water buffalo in this story was bitten nearly 2 weeks ago. It had tried to stand, eat, and move, but now it was down to its last few moments. And that's when other predators appear. The wind carried the smell of blood and death, and a series of Komodo from all over followed the trail. Their characteristic forked tongue not only helps them smell the air, but also accurately locate where their prey is gradually collapsing, even up to 2.5 miles away. A young dragon boldly approached first, but he knew full well he was playing with fire. Inside the thick, scaly skin of adult Komodos is a cannibalistic instinct, always waiting to emerge. The larger ones kept their distance, waiting as if they were playing a game of life and death. They don't compete in a hurry, because instinctively they know the food will not run away. And then, as dawn broke, the party began. No ceremony needed. No need to tear it apart. The biggest one rushed in first, sinking his teeth deep into the cold buffalo carcass. Komodo can eat up to 80% of its body weight at one time, which means nearly 100 pounds of raw meat, swallowed blood mixed with dirt. The hatchling turned back, hungry and trembling, but still wise enough to keep its distance. With giants around, one wrong move could turn it into an unwanted dessert. The party lasted until only bones and bloody mud remained. One of the largest finished the party by swallowing the buffalo's entire leg, including hoof and bone, in one fell swoop. It is primitive scenes like this that show why Komodo has become unrivaled giants. When food was abundant, there were no competing predators, and only time was the judge. Nature selected a creature that lived slowly, was compact, and survived by waiting for the death of others. Under the scorching sun of a tropical afternoon, the ground was so hot that it broke into cracks. On the scorched grass, a rare mud puddle became the only residence of an old wild buffalo. It lay motionless in the cool mud, covering its body with mud to ward off the heat and buzzing flies. But that temporary shelter is also a trap. From afar, through layers of thick and silent air, a creature weighing more than 150 pounds was quietly approaching. It doesn't see or hear, but smells. With its forked tongue constantly reaching out and retracting, Komodo decodes the air like a living map. The molecules of the smell of meat, the smell of sweat, the smell of mud, and especially the smell of blood are trapped between the buffalo's cracked toenails, all of which lead it in the right direction. From a long distance, it knows the location and even the health status of the target. Because of Komodo, the smell of weakness is a deadly invitation. Without making a sound, it slithered through the bushes like a ghost. No need to rush, just need the right time. When the distance was only a few feet, Komodo accelerated. A low lunge, stable center of gravity, then a powerful bite to the buffalo's hind calf, the ideal position to break tendons, causing the prey to lose the ability to resist without immediate serious injury. The buffalo rose, roared, and struggled in panic, his eyes lost in pain and surprise. But Komodo did not pursue. It stopped. Look, retreat a bit. It knows the game has just begun. That seemingly simple bite is working. Each heartbeat of a buffalo is a rhythm that absorbs vitality. Every gasp is a death warning that resounds in the jungle, and the smell of blood began to spread with the wind. Soon fellow humans appeared. From other valleys, long, silent figures crawled out of the darkness. There was no call, but everyone knew there was a party. A Komodo waits. But when the number passes 3, they lose patience. The bites began, and each piece of flesh was pulled out, and the abdomen was torn apart. The buffalo collapsed in a position of no longer fighting back, a mass of flesh, surrounded by creatures of an ancient era, neither speaking human language nor needing compassion. In just 4 hours, what remained were a few broken bones, bloodstains, and a devastated land. But in the eyes of nature, no sin occurred. There are no killers, only beings playing their proper role in the great chain of balance. Komodo does not hunt out of malice. It hunts to live. And every bite, every bloody feast simply proves that on this forgotten island, prehistory still breathes, with teeth with claws and with deadly silence. There is no disgust, no binding rules. For Komodo, a meal is a meal, whether it's on dry grass among hot rocks or deep in a puddle of black mud. When the buffalo collapsed, its body half submerged in mud, its hind legs still twitching from its last reflexes, Komodo did not hesitate at all. It rushed down its thick legs, waded through the mud, its mouth plunged straight into the prey's stomach, and began tearing pieces of flesh. Mud splashed onto its horn scales, covering its muzzle and eyes. but it didn't blink. In the world of Komodo, clean or dirty is not as important as life or death. And in that moment, the sound of flesh being torn apart echoed with the sound of bubbling water like a harmony of doom. Komodo grabbed a piece of meat and took a few steps back to make room. Not out of politeness, but because it understands that in this fierce heat, keeping a corpse to yourself is no different from committing suicide. Other Komodos from distant bushes were approaching. They don't need to fight. No need to growl or fight. They divided into parts, moving around the buffalo carcass in a silent but chillingly effective cycle. There is no piano. There is no social structure. But in the blood feast, an invisible order formed. The bigger one eats the better portion. The young wait for what's left. And if someone interrupts at the wrong time, one bite can turn it into the next dessert. Komodo does not know how to forgive, but it knows how to share in its natural way. Because in this world of scarcity, a meal is too big to monopolize. And so in the thick mud, what was once the buffalo's last resting place, now becomes an ancient banquet table where dragons of the prehistoric era celebrate victory together with teeth claws and perfect cruelty. In a world increasingly overwhelmed by urban noise and light, where many animals are wiped out before they can even be named, the Komodo dragon is still present, quiet, strong, and never changing. It doesn't need technology. It doesn't need weapons. It doesn't need a civilization to survive. It only needs rock sea breeze and the blood that continues to flow in the body from the time of the dinosaurs to today. On Komodo Island, life has not been domesticated. Here, the food chain is still determined by the first bite, by time, and by nature's purest instincts. However, no matter how strong, Komodo still cannot escape the threats caused by humans. Climate change is depleting water sources. Open forests burned. Wild animals from deer to wild boars to wild buffalo are becoming fewer and fewer due to hunting and habitat loss. When the prey disappears, the predator also gradually fades away. Currently, the world only has approximately 3,000 Komodo individuals in nature. They are confined to a few small islands, and their future no longer depends on their instincts, but on us. If Komodo disappears, it won't just be the extinction of one animal. It was the end of an ancient chapter that the earth had preserved for 4 million years. It is a farewell to a creature who proves that there is order to the cruelty of nature, that silence can be a symbol of power, and that sometimes to survive is to win. Komodo dragons do not need to be mythologized. It just needs to live up to its role, the last gatekeeper of the prehistoric era. And for that to happen, we all must work together to protect that fading fire before it goes out forever.